From flying in a hot air balloon to moving on a tightrope, here's how these 8 people escaped the Berlin Wall. Today's video was requested by Blue Moon Wolfgatcher. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section. From 1961 to 1989, the Berlin Wall was both a physical and ideological barrier between East and West Germany. After World War II, Germany's capital city was divided into occupation zones by the Allied forces. The US, the UK, France, and the Soviet Union each took their share of the land. As tensions rose between the Soviet Union, which controlled East Germany, and the Allies in the West, the Berlin Wall was built. Families and friends found themselves separated, and free movement across the border became a virtual death sentence. Number 8. Flying a hot air balloon. After watching the documentary on hot air ballooning, aircraft engineer Hans Peter Strelczyk was inspired. Alongside friend Gunter Wetzel, he built an engine from propane cylinders. The balloon itself was made from bedsheets stitched together by their wives. Their first attempt failed, but Wetzel and Strelczyk were determined to get their families to West Berlin. On September the 16th, 1979, they took off, soared over the wall, and landed on West German soil. The hot air balloon flight that changed the lives of the 2 men and their families lasted roughly half an hour. Before we move on, answer this question. What does Mein Kampf, the title of Hitler's most famous book, mean? A. My camp. B. I, the champ. C. Mining camp. D. My struggle. Let us know what you think in the comments below and stay tuned to find out the right answer. Number 7. Crashing a tank. Wolfgang Engels was an East German soldier who'd helped build the wall in 1961, but who soon realized that life in the West was more alluring. In April 1963, Engels stole a tank and drove towards the wall as he cried out, "I'm getting out of here to the west! Anyone want to come along?" Unfortunately, the tank wasn't powerful enough to break through the concrete barrier. That's when Engels got out and tried to climb the wall but got stuck in the barbed wire. He was shot twice by patrolling guards before West Germans, who'd been drinking in a bar nearby, helped him down. Engels said that he knew he'd made it because, as he awoke on the bar counter, he saw all the Western brands of liquor. West Berlin was a capitalist presence deep within communist East Germany, something which Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev said stuck like a bone in the Soviet throat. They began maneuvering to take full control of the city. In 1948, they tried to starve out West Berlin by blocking the influx of supplies from the Allies. To counter this move, the Allies began dropping supplies by air, which became known as the Berlin Airlift. The following year, the Soviets cancelled the blockade, and a decade of relative peace followed. During this time, over 3 million refugees fled from the Eastern German Democratic Republic to the Western Federal Republic of Germany. This was cause for Soviet embarrassment and the main reason why the wall was built. The Soviet government claimed it to be a way of keeping capitalist influence out, but it was rather a way of keeping East Germans in, mostly against their will. Crossing the border could only be done through checkpoints alongside the wall. Number 6. Paddling on an air mattress. In 1975, Ingo Bethke decided to flee East Berlin by using an air mattress. He used to work as an East German border guard and knew the terrain on the banks of the river Elbe. He also knew how to safely cross the minefield, navigate through the metal fencing, and avoid the tripwires. Bethke and a friend made their way to the river and used an air mattress as a raft. They followed the course of the Elbe and quietly paddled to West Germany. Official They Will Kill You merchandise is now available at theywillkillyou.com. Some of it is to die for. Number 5. Using a zip line. After Ingo Bethke defected to West Germany, his family was tightly monitored by East German authorities. However, that didn't stop his younger brother, Holger, planning a daring escape. A trained archer, Holger found a tall building overlooking the other side of the wall. In 1983, he snuck into the attic and used a bow and arrow to fire a cable to West Berlin. Ingo, who'd gotten word from his brother, was waiting on the other side and attached the cable to his car. Holger then rode the zip line using a metal pulley and was reunited with his brother on the other side. The Berlin Wall was a 12-foot tall, 4-foot wide structure made of reinforced concrete with a giant pipe at the top that made climbing it next to impossible. The wall zigzagged across the country for 96 miles, separating East and West Germany, with about 27 miles running across the capital city. The East German side featured a death strip, a gauntlet of vicious dogs, tripwire, machine guns, floodlights, and guards ordered to shoot on sight. The wall stood for nearly 3 decades, and over 171 people were killed trying to cross it. Number 4. Driving a stolen train. 4 months after the wall was built, 27-year-old railway engineer Harry Detterling found a disused train track that still stretched from East to West Berlin. His escape plan would subsequently become known as the last train to freedom. Detterling signed on as a conductor on the route nearest to the disused track. In early December 1961, Detterling's friends and family climbed aboard the train. After disabling the emergency brakes, Detterling drove the train at full speed towards West Berlin and implicitly to freedom. The train drove through the wall at 50 miles per hour, taking border guards completely by surprise. As soon as the train skidded to a halt in a West Berlin suburb, one of the fugitives called the police to explain what they were doing with a stolen East German train. 1989, a series of revolutions in Eastern Bloc countries unleashed a chain reaction in East Germany that ultimately brought down the wall. As people began crossing the border through Hungary to Austria, mass demonstrations followed in East Germany. Tensions grew, and in the wake of political instability, waves of refugees found their way to West Germany. On November 9, 1989, the East German government announced its citizens could visit the West. In a celebratory atmosphere, thousands of Germans crossed or climbed over the wall to embrace those on the other side. The Berlin Wall, in its ideological form, had fallen, and Germany was whole again. The physical demolition of the wall was completed from 1990 to 1992. Number 3. Driving a convertible. While working in East Berlin, Heinz Meissner fell in love with Marguerite Thoreau. Meissner was Austrian, but East German authorities wouldn't allow him to marry Thoreau in his native country. Meissner then rented a convertible and modified it by removing its windshield and deflating its tires. In 1963, with Thoreau and his future mother-in-law in the trunk, Meissner approached a border checkpoint. He then ducked and stepped on the gas, driving under the barrier and into West Berlin. Number 2. Swimming. When he was only 18 years old in 1966, Hartmut Reichter swam across the Teltow Canal to reach West Berlin. It took him 4 hours, in which he had to duck underwater many times to avoid being detected by patrols or guard dogs. Exhausted and close to hypothermic shock, he reached the West German shore and passed out. Richter would later return to the east several years later and start to smuggle people to the other side in the trunk of his car. He helped over 30 people get out until he was arrested. He was later released with West German help. So what does Mein Kampf mean? The right answer was D, My Struggle. His 720-page manifesto describes his political ideology and plans for the future of the country, as well as the process by which he became anti-Semitic. It became a bestseller in Germany in 1933, after Hitler's rise to power, and a notable tool for gathering further support to his cause. Number 1. Moving on a tightrope. Horst Klein was a trapeze artist with anti-communist beliefs, unable to perform on the Soviet side of the wall. Driven by his passion and love of the circus, he plotted an escape by doing what he was best at, climbing the tightrope. In the winter of 1962, he climbed an electricity pole adjacent to the wall and started moving hand over hand across a disused power cable. As he dangled from the wire 60 feet below were the death strip and patrolling guards. When his arms got tired, he pulled his body on the cable and inched his way across. As the cold took hold of him, he fell from the top and fractured both his arms. The shock and pain he'd felt hadn't been in vain, as he did land on the western side of the wall. Thanks for watching. Suppose you were trapped in East Germany, but with access to the technology we use today. How would you approach escaping the Berlin Wall? Let us know in the comments section below.